a fucking control freak about that. Okay.
Right.
I think that looks perfect.
Yeah, it's good.
To start off, I want to go chronologically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of curious how you got into heavy music in the first place.
Well, started way back in the day at 1992, 93.
Mm-hmm.
My mom left her boyfriend at the time and met this other man, and his name is Anthony. We call him Tony for short.
Yeah.
And he was like just out of the military, really cool dude. And he was into, like, at that time, I grew up on like R&B, hip hop, reggae, just
Okay.
from being from the Bronx, and just that was just what was around me.
Sure.
But he kind of offered like a different perspective at the time, which was really interesting because there was such a divide back then. It's not like today where music genres kind of intermingle with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back then it was very defined. Like, he was a metalhead, he was into heavy music, and he liked Biohazard and Clutch and Metallica and Megadeth and Faith No More. And so when my mom got with him, next thing you know, he's like playing these records at my house.
Yeah.
And it was completely new to me.
Yeah.
So at first I kind of rejected it. At first I was like, nah, whatever. I'm into my own thing. But I remember it was right around the time, like my real dad passed away when I was around 12, and so we went to my stepfather, who's Tony.
Mm-hmm.
He took us to Florida that year just to kind of get us off of the heaviness of losing my father.
Sure.
And on the trip to Florida, he gave me The Real Thing by Faith No More. And that was like the first like rock album that I listened to.
Yeah.
And I was about 12, 13. And I just fell in love with it. It was just like different, Mike Patton's voice on that album is just like, even the single that they put out where he's kind of like rapping and stuff. It was kind of like, it was palatable for me because I was like, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, oh, okay, here's this white dude that's like rapping, and like the song is good.
Right.
It's not like a crappy song. So,
right.
so I was like really into it. So that was like my only tape that I had that whole trip.
Mm-hmm.
So I just listened to that one trip for like 5 days, like every day.
Just on repeat.
And then when we got back, I remember telling him, like, I kind of want to explore a little bit more of this music. I've always been a music freak, like forever. So when he brought over a box of tapes, and it had like Anthrax and like what's Ice-T's group?
Body Count.
Body Count.
Yeah.
That first album was in there. Iceberg, I think it was called, or something like that. It had like the shotgun in the cop's
mouth.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Cop Killer. No,
it had Cop Killer on it,
that's
but
right.
it was like the first album, and then I was like familiar with Ice-T's work because I listened to rap, so I was like, oh, say he's in a a metal band.
Sure.
And then Slayer was in there, and Pantera, and so that was kind of like, oh shit, like this is cool,
right?
Like this is different, and it kind of represents what I was feeling at the time. Because after I lost my dad, I had a lot of like anger in me,
Totally.
and confusion because I didn't know what the hell, 12 years on Earth, I didn't really know what was going on here.
Sure. Yeah.
So that music really showed like an extra perspective that I was like, okay, I think I can get into this. And the interesting part about that, right, is when I did that, I decided to completely reinvent myself.
Okay.
Because I collected hip hop tapes.
Yeah.
And I used to buy them for like $5 off the street. And I remember that I gave them all away.
Wow.
My whole collection. Because I was like, I really want to dive into what this is.
Yes.
And I feel like because at that time there was no room for intermingling of music, I was like, well, I'm going to get rid of these rap tapes and only collect like metal and rock.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of started me off. And so I don't know if you remember the Columbia's House, like they used to give out the CDs for $1, like 10 CDs for $1.
Yeah.
So I remember I got like Vulgar Display of Power, and I got Euthanasia, and I got all of these like metal records.
Yeah.
And that is like really what started me off. And then I started learning how to play guitar, and It was because of Nirvana. My
Mm.
buddy taught me how to play "Rape Me," the two chords,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's it." And
Yeah,
then that,
I could do that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then that song kind of spiraled me off into learning four instruments and playing drums and doing all this stuff. It was like that one song,
Yeah, and that just
um,
did it for you.
and it just, yeah, because it was easy.
Yeah.
And then, like, at that time, a teenager, the angst of Nirvana and all of like the grunge movement, Soundgarden and
Mhm.
Stone Temple Pilots and Alice in Chains was a huge influence on me as a kid.
Yeah, great band.
I love that band, and so for me, I was able to really embrace the mystery
Mm,
because hip hop music dealt a lot with what was going on politically and in our areas, but rock and metal was more ethereal to me. It had
mm.
more at the depth of feel, right? You could be angry, you could be sad, like
Yes.
even on Vulgar Display of Power, they have the song, the last song,
Oh, Hollow. Yeah.
right? There's
Yeah.
like a ballad.
Yeah.
What's left inside her, and I was just like, man, like this song I felt it
Right.
more than any rap song I ever heard, because it was more like the rap stuff was just like, oh, this is everybody stuff, but that song was like, no, this is like for me,
Yeah. I
right?
I can relate to that a lot,
Right,
for sure,
right,
it's like, yeah, the first time I heard, God, I don't know, it was probably Marilyn Manson for me. I was just like, "Holy shit,
hmm
like, this guy talking to me?"
hmm
Like,
hmm
so that kinda, well, I'm curious now, did you ever go back and listen to those old hip hop records at all?
it's funny that you say that. Yeah, I have actually, because I think what happened was, when I initially gave away all my tapes,
Mhm.
a lot of my friends that I hung out with at the time stopped talking to me. It was interesting because I had experienced racism
Oh,
of my own
shit.
friends, because they were like, "Oh, you're just trying to be white and you're listening to all this white music," and I didn't see it like that at the time. I was just like, "It's just music, dude.
Right.
It's like
Yeah, totally.
it's not worth like not talking to me anymore, not hanging out with me." So I was like, "Well, fine. If that's gonna be the case, I'm gonna." I just started my own lane,
Right.
and I started hanging out with other metalheads. And it's funny that you asked me if I went back, because I absolutely did. Because what I did is I realized that music is just music,
Right.
and you don't have to exclude one over the other. It really, I mean, as a musician and as a sound engineer, I won't allow myself to do that.
No. No.
I'll hear a country record and enjoy it, and a lot of people dog on country, and I'm like, why do you guys like give music a chance?
Yeah,
You know what I
right?
mean? Not to
Yeah.
mention that I've worked with a lot of country artists just over my years as a sound engineer,
Yeah,
and they're some of the nicest, most professional people I've ever worked with.
completely.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I no longer have that stigma against music. There may be certain styles that I don't really resonate with, like for example, like pop punk. I'm not really into pop punk.
Me either, yeah.
But I mean, at the very least, its existence validates why I listen to what I listen to,
Right,
right?
right. And,
So
like, and other people can enjoy it, and
yeah,
that can be their
and
thing,
that could be their thing.
and
Yeah,
that's great,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I have visited. I have gone back, and nowadays my music is extremely eclectic. Like
Yeah,
I listen to all kinds of stuff.
which is, I think that's great, like,
Yeah.
that's the way to go,
In my opinion, yeah, I really do. I mean, I generally stay in a darker realm.
Mhm.
I think that I am just like that by nature. I'm a negative energy s sort of person, in that
Sure.
I enjoy the dark. I love dark music, anything dark. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
And so I generally stay in that area.
sure.
But I mean, and you can tell from like my bands like Nightwraith,
Yeah.
I like to venture out and expand, because I think that it's good for growth. You can't just be the same type of person all
N
the time.
No, and I 100% agree with that.
Right.
I think I kinda came to that conclusion as well, and I think a lot of metalheads would definitely
Yeah.
agree with you, for
Yeah.
sure. I think they've gone through that same thing. I'm kinda curious now, so you started on guitar.
Mhm.
Um, how did you get into drums? Because I would say that's probably your main
Oh
instrument
yeah.
now,
No,
you
that it
know?
definitely is.
Yeah.
I come from a family of drummers.
Okay.
They're all congueros though. So
Okay.
they played like the conga. So when I was growing up, music is very heavily embedded in my family. And when we would have family gatherings, my family would play loud music, like salsa music,
Yeah.
mostly salsa music, because I'm Puerto Rican and black. So like my,
Oh,
my
okay.
family is Puerto Rican, my dad's side is black, but there's also a lot of Afro Latin
Totally. Oh,
influences,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so like when I was growing up, my uncle would bring out his drums and play hand drums, all night,
Yeah.
drinking beers and everybody
Yeah.
hanging out and
Just
playing. And I always thought it was cool, and I was always enamored by it, but I just never, it didn't really hit me to
mhm.
play drums then, because that's not the style that I wanted to play.
Right. Yeah, that makes
You know what
sense.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
I loved it and I thought it was cool. And when I think back in retrospect, you know, I enjoy that it was my culture, or it is my culture.
Mhm.
But even at a young age, I was just like, yeah, but I want something more than that, right?
Yeah.
And so when my stepfather, he's a drummer, and
Okay.
he has a cousin that is also a drummer. So and he's incredible. These are all like New York kit players
Yes.
that play gigs around the town. So they're like
Oh, wow.
phenomenal
That's
drummers.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're, like, next level then, yeah.
Yeah, and so so I went from guitar to bass, and then I played bass predominantly for years. That was my main instrument,
Okay.
and I like bass because it's a mixture of drums and guitar. It's like percussive, right?
Mhm.
But then I remember I was in a band, and the drummer had left, and I always wanted to learn, but I just never thought that I could do it. And
Okay.
then one day he left, and I was like, well, I'll just start learning how to play drums. Now, what's interesting is that I air drummed. I used to sit on the subway system in New York City with
Yeah.
and I would air drum. And that's literally how I learned how to play drum. I didn't touch the drums for like the first 3 years.
Wow.
I just
That's
air drummed.
that's phenomenal. That's
Yeah,
crazy. So it was almost like self-teaching without a kit.
without a kit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Learning how to do independence, learning regular beats just by listening and make believe that I had a kit.
holy
Because
shit.
I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment with my two sisters and my mom, and we
Yeah.
didn't have
No,
room for a drum
you
kit
don't
or
have
nothing
space
like
for
that.
that. No.
And in New York City, you have to rent rooms, and it gets pretty expensive, like $30 an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to learn other than just air drumming. So I would listen to like Ozzy records and air drum. Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden was huge, and even like when I got into some of the heavier stuff, like
Mhm.
one of the first bands that I ever saw live was Immolation. So I would try to like imitate what I heard on
Yeah.
there. And a lot of times those drumming patterns were hard to me at the time, so I didn't even know what the hell was going on.
Sure.
Pantera was a huge influence, because Vinny's playing. I mean, in my opinion, some of the most powerful drumming on any
Oh yeah.
record is his playing. And
Yeah.
so like, when you're listening to Far Beyond Driven, I mean, I wanted to play like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like have that intensity and that power.
Right.
And then like Dave Grohl, bands like Dave Grohl. I mean, his drumming on Nirvana.
Mhm.
I remember watching him and just saying that's how I want to play when I play drums. Like he was just very like, and his
You're right.
hair's everywhere, and he's standing up and throwing shit, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so I got into drumming because we needed a drummer. I already had a inclination to go in that direction.
Mhm.
Um, but when I tried to, none of my friends wanted me to do it. And I hung out with like all musicians, and they were like, "No, you're too tall. You're not good enough." And they wouldn't let me.
Mhm.
They wanted me to stay a bass player, and I was just like, "No, I think that I want to try this." So the reason why I moved to Colorado
Mhm.
was to be a drummer.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. When did you move to Colorado?
2001.
2001. Okay.
Yeah, it was in spring of 2001.
Okay. And did you move straight to Denver?
No, I moved to the Springs first. I
Okay.
lived in Colorado Springs for about 10 months, and then our house burned down.
Oh, god damn. I'm sorry to hear
Yeah.
that, man. That
No,
sucks.
it happened a long time ago. I mean, I wasn't there at the time. I was hanging out with this girl at the time, and so
Yeah.
my roommates came to her house and was like, "Dude, the house burnt down," and I didn't
Fuck.
believe them. But yeah, I lived with four other dudes. We had a
Mhm.
big house in the Springs,
Sure. Yeah.
615 Skyline Avenue. I'll never forget that. And one of my roommates was he used to deal weed. I
Mhm.
probably did some other shit,
Sure.
and he left a candle burning, passed out, and it burnt up the house. So at that moment, it was either go back to New York, which I didn't want to do,
Yeah.
or go to Denver. And so me and two of the guys that lived in the house decided to come to Denver,
Okay.
and that's when I started playing in the scene here in Denver since 2001. And I remember like I met Ethan from Primitive Man. I met
Yeah.
Ethan at like he was like 16 when I met him,
Oh wow.
17,
Okay.
and we had a band together, and developed a pretty strong friendship, and that's how I got to know a lot of the guys in town. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've known them since then. A lot of them since they were young. I mean, I was in my early 20s when I moved here. I was 21.
Okay.
So yeah, it was kind of like a grassroots. I loved it because the metal scene here, just like today, very supportive, and back then it was like very DIY. Like the reason why, in my opinion, the reason why this city is so popular with music is because of that movement back then.
Yeah.
A lot of those bands got bigger, and then like Cephalic Carnage,
Sure.
and a lot of that, they built us an underground system here to where more underground bands that were starting to get popular were coming here.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like Converge. I remember
Yeah.
seeing Converge at Rock Island 2002, and it was a small venue.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, but it was part of that underground scene where more and more people started to gravitate towards Denver because a lot of these underground bands were playing here.
Right.
And then it started to get bigger and bigger, and now it's turned into the beast that it is today.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
It's great.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You mentioned it earlier, and I did know this about you. Audio engineering.
Mhm.
How did that come into play? Was it when you moved here, or was that back in New York when it started?
Mm-mm. It was when I moved here. I played in a band with Ethan called Nightwraith,
Okay.
which is I Am Alien spelled backwards, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like a death metal grind band, and we got offered a show at the Ogden. And now this was back in the day when the Ogden was owned by NIPP, Nobody in Particular Presents,
Okay.
and it was a DIY promoter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So back then, any local band could play at the Ogden,
That's
right?
cool.
They used to have like local nights,
Okay. Yeah.
and we got invited to play at a show. And after our set, the production manager, I'm still friends with him to this day. His name is Shaquille. He came up to me and was like, "Hey man, like I really like the way you play. Can you demo out a drum kit for us? I have a friend who's making drum kits, and can you demo it out?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, "Cool, yeah, I can do that." And so he asked me to come down to the Bluebird Theater that following week. But at the time, I was in film school because I was trying to be a director and editor.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Man, but this is live production. It's kind of similar. Let me like bring a resume down." I went down to this drum demo, and he invited all these other drummers from
Oh
around town.
shit. Okay.
That's how I met Joe from Scalafrea.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
and him and his brothers, like we've all known each other a really long time. But that's how I met him. So we all went down, and I dressed in a suit, and I brought my resume down,
Yeah.
and I gave it to him, and I was like, "Listen, man, like I'm in production right now. I'm in school. I would like to, get a job,
Yeah.
whatever."
Yeah.
So I remember that day because I'm like testing out this drum kit, and this guy had a design flaw, and I went up there, and because I play hard,
Right.
and I went up there and I hit the kit, and it flew off the stage, and I was like, "Well, that's one of the things you got to fix right there."
Holy shit.
I hit the pedal, and that shit flew off. But then Shaquille was like, "Hey, come on down. We have a spot opening for a lighting director." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah. I mean, I've never done that, but I'll come down and do it."
Yeah.
And so I started off as a lighting director. Then I was like, "Well, I really like this. What else can I do in here?" And they needed a monitor engineer.
Okay.
So I went and I did monitors for 2 years at the Bluebird.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the second year, and this was like, so I started in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
After doing that for 2 years, I got moved up to front of house.
Okay.
But right when I got moved up to front of house, Cephalic Carnage asked me to be their front of house engineer for this first Summer Slaughter tour that's coming up.
Oh shit.
So right off the bat, my first tour was a Summer Slaughter tour.
Wow.
And I was mixing 4 bands. I was mixing Decapitated, Cattle Decapitation, Cephalic Carnage, and what was the last one? I Declare War, or was that was the second one that I did?
Okay.
I think it was those. So it was those 3. It was Cephalic, Cattle, and then Decapitated.
Okay.
And this was when Vitek and Vasek were still in Decapitated.
Wow.
So like I got to mix the original lineup of Decapitated before Vitek passed away.
Wow.
And yeah, so I got to like really know those dudes, and
Sure.
and in the early days, I mean, when they play Spheres of Madness, people would just go fucking crazy, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of mixing that every day,
Yeah.
you know, and just being completely blown away by that band and how young they were. And we spoke a lot about their upbringing and how they went to like this music school that was like really intense. And I loved those dudes, man. They were really cool.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cattle, you know, like it was in the early days when the band still had um, some of the earlier players in it, and just being able to start off mixing grindcore and mixing these acts that were at the time relatively still underground, but
Mm.
still like up and coming
Sure.
acts.
Sure.
I felt blessed and grateful to even just start off like that. You
Well,
know what
yeah.
I mean? Like that was
Yeah.
literally how I started off. And then from that point on, I was Cephalic Carnage front of house engineer for a few years,
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
Um, and that's pretty much how I got into production. Uh, I have a lot of friends still. Almost all my friends are in production, and they always, you know, they always like, hey, you want to come back, or you want? And at this point now in my career, I just do it for fun. I work in mental health now, and
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I think I had a baby and I got married, and I just didn't want to live that life anymore like that
Mm.
on the road.
I understand that for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, you can't really be there.
Yeah.
Would you so you did live stuff. How do you feel about studio? Not only recording as the engineer, but also like performing.
Mhm.
How do you feel about that? Because I think you're much more of a live performer for sure.
Yeah, I'm a live person. You know, studio stuff is cool. And obviously the concepts can transfer over, but there's subtleties about it.
Totally.
What I love about the live versus the studio is live is guerrilla style.
Yeah.
It fits my personality more.
Yeah.
You know, like at a sold out show. One of the reasons why I got hired at the Ogden, the Gothic, the Bluebird, all the Summit, all of these theaters was my demeanor in at work.
Hmm.
It's very militant for me.
Yeah.
Things have to be on time. I don't care. I don't care if there's a sold out show. I'm gonna get through that crowd. It's
Totally.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
I got my flashlight. If I have to like nudge people out of the way, and that was one of the things. Like they saw how I operated, and they were like, "Oh, okay, this guy is not afraid to get in there." Because I've seen people afraid.
Oh, I know.
I've
Yeah.
seen people get overwhelmed or like they break down or they start doing wrong shit because they're overwhelmed by the lights and the intensity. I just didn't get overwhelmed. I wanted it so bad that I expected the the intensity.
Yeah.
And so I'm an intense person, so I was like, this is not a problem for me.
Well, sure.
And I just went through it, and that helped me a lot. Live studio stuff is more controlled, right? You
Totally.
have more time, you have more like and I don't think I like that aspect of it. I leave it up to the people who have that energy where they really want to be meticulous. Like for example, Jacob, the bass player for Nightwraith,
Mm.
who's also my producer. He's produced a bunch of the shit that I've done.
Yeah.
I like working with him because he has that sort of calmness about him, and he lets me kind of like experiment, and do things, and there's no rush to it.
Yeah.
And he does a good job. So like when I see him in a live setting though, he's nervous. He
Right.
doesn't know what to do, and he can't troubleshoot on the fly.
Right.
That's one thing I do well is I troubleshoot on the fly. I know the signal flow, so I can get in there and figure out where the breakdown happens.
Yes.
Whereas in studio work, you got all day to do something like that.
Right.
So I think that's why I like the live much more. It just fits my personality, I think,
Yeah.
more.
And I agree. I don't know if you remember this. I did sound for you guys at the Seventh Circle. I
That's
was
right.
still
Yep.
learning
Yep.
for Obscene,
Hmm.
and I was totally overwhelmed. And then
Hmm.
over time, I kind of got used to it and stuff. But I just learned, that's not really for me. I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it can be fun, but it
Hmm.
just wasn't for me.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just although I do like the live more than the studio.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was like live, I'm like, okay, I get to see bands, this is fun or whatever. But the studio is just like I can be here all day and it's driving me insane. Like I
Right.
kind of I would like it to be like, this is as good as it's gonna get. Let's
Mhm.
just fucking move on.
Mhm.
Like that
No,
much
I
more
agree.
geared for that.
And I think after the Hate Eternal tour that I did with Eric Rutan and all those guys, like
Yeah.
that band taught me a lot about how to do audio, especially live audio. And it taught me a lot about resonance of theaters and volume, how to properly, compress things, because that band is very little dynamic. It's very, death metal,
Right.
straightforward.
Sure.
And I think that I'm the kind of person that I can like stick through the fire.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because Eric Rutan can be a little intimidating to other people, but with me, I was like, I'm not intimidated by you.
Sure.
You know, we're either gonna get through this or we're not.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's why I like live sound, because like for me, it's like if something breaks down, I'll give you an example.
Sure.
I was doing sound for Norma Jean I worked at the Marquee for about 13 years.
Okay.
So I've mixed a shit ton of bands there.
God,
I
yeah.
mean, everyone from Deicide, Today Is the Day, to Norma Jean, Converge, or I can go on.
Yeah.
But Norma Jean, it was a sold out show. They were playing Bless the Martyrs all the way through.
Wow.
So it was sold out. People really wanted, and I like that record. So I was like, yeah, I want to go,
Yeah, totally.
work that show.
Totally.
In the middle of a sold out show, the mic cuts out.
Mm.
And, my job obviously is to go out there and fix that. So I'm mixing. So it goes up and I'm cutting through the crowd. I'm getting everything ready. The vocalist doesn't know that I'm doing all this. So he doesn't see me, but I'm in the back getting a new cable, rerouting the old one, removing, and I'm literally standing right next to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Where's the sound guy at? Where's the sound guy at? I can't believe this shit." And literally everyone in the front sees me right there. And I'm like looking up at this dude.
Yeah.
So then I stand up.
Yeah.
And like he's kind of a shorter dude, and I like tap him on the shoulder really hard. He looks behind me and I give him the cable and I take it, I put it in, and I just walk away. And he's like, "Oh, my bad. Hey, I just want to apologize to the sound guy." You know what I mean? And it's stuff like that where I don't get like perturbed.
Yeah.
I already had that thing on lock. I don't need I'm already there. I'm already problem solving
Totally.
immediately.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. That's what I like about it. Because what it does is I stick out to people like that.
Totally.
Because now when they come back again, they'd be like, "Oh, you're the guy, you did a great job last night," that kind of thing. Same thing with Glenn from Deicide. I first met him and he looks at me and he sees, "Oh, this is, brown dude who's telling me he loves Deicide." And I'm like, "No, I really like your band."
Yeah.
Like, Once Upon the Cross was one of the most blasphemous things I ever heard, and I fucking love that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that whole album is
yeah. It's
nails.
great.
Yeah, it's great.
So I went and I told him that, and he just kind of like, how he is. He's kind of like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, sure.
And dude, I had that band sounding immaculate. Like, sounded like the record.
Yeah.
When I was done, and monitors and everything. When I was
Yeah.
done, he was like, "All right, yeah, it sounded good." And then just walks away from me, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I got Glenn's approval."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, but I think that's I love that part. I love that aspect of it, that guerrilla style. You just getting up there and shit's gonna happen whether you like it or not, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I can go on. I got so many stories.
Oh
with these
shit,
people.
I bet. Yeah.
So many.
Well, I want to ask you then, kind of go back to the music now.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably been in countless bands as well.
I have, yeah.
But currently you're in 4. Is that correct?
Yeah. One of them is really active. 2 of them, a couple of members have had children, so we're kind of like on a hiatus so they can get their families together.
Sure.
And then one of them is just a project that I do that's just all me.
And I was curious about that. I was listening to some of that earlier today, actually. It's really fucking good, man.
Thanks, man.
I know you were talking about bringing that back. Is that still something you're like?
Yeah. It's a project. What I like about that project is that it never has to go away. It's me. It's mine. And I just, I like to I want a very specific sound with that band. Because that band was born off of me and my frustrations, and my mental illness and that kind of thing. Not to say that it's severe, but everybody has like trauma that they're dealing with, right?
Totally.
And so like that was Cyffrous Indignus is sort of me like transmuting my traumas to like a style of music that I almost don't want anyone to listen to it.
Yeah.
Right. I almost, because like the last shit that we put out, Rick from Obscene helped me write it. And it was basically just a jam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just started playing, then I started playing, and then I went to the studio and chopped everything up, made it songs.
Yes.
And I was just like, like I put it out because I'm like, I don't, like this isn't for anyone else but me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if people like it or not.
Right.
You know
No.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that authenticity, it's interesting because I have had people get it and hit me up or be like, "Hey man, I really like this album. Like it's cool. It's very visceral."
Yes.
And it's during the pandemic, I was going through a lot of emotions and feels and everything that was going on in the world, and so I just wanted to put it all in a project. But yeah, I would love to. Right now. I'm looking for people to to do it with, because
Yeah.
it's hard. Like, I can't play all the instruments, but I'm not really that kind of a person.
Yeah.
I just want to do vocals and write and play drums, and I want to get guitar players and shit like that to
Yeah.
fill in.
Yeah. Do
But
you sing while playing drums? You
I
played
do.
live with that, right?
I did. When we first came out, we did a live show via online
Oh, okay. Yeah,
on
yeah.
Halloween 2020.
Nice.
We did like a 20-minute set that I recorded and put it online.
Cool.
That's the only time that we ever played like live
Yeah.
together. After that, the guitar player shortly left the band after that, and I haven't really like put together like a live set yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I will eventually. I just need to find the people to do it.
Yeah, that's the not kind of the hard part of it.
Right, but I think since I'm the vocalist and the drummer, the hard part is out of the way. I
Yeah,
just need to
no,
find people to like.
you can throw a rock and hit a guitar player. Yeah,
Right, right. But there's a specific style of playing that I want,
yes.
because there was one person that tried to get on, and I just didn't like their style of playing, because like that band, I'm projecting Leviathan, right? Like, I'm projecting like underground black metal that I want it to be visceral, like Revenge or something like that, where it's like,
Yes,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, that's what I want. And if you're playing like, if you're not playing that kind of like sloppiness, dissonant shit, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
I
with you.
completely
You know what I
understand.
mean? Like,
No,
right?
no, if it's too clean or
Yeah, if it's too power chordy, or I don't want none of
yeah,
that shit.
no,
Like, I like literally when we started putting that band together, the very first thing that I told the guitar player was like, I want Leviathan style guitar riffs.
Yeah.
Like, that is the style that I'm trying to embody with this group.
yeah,
So
that's cool. Well, I look forward to
yeah,
you know
hopefully,
what
hopefully get together.
yeah, that
Yeah,
would
yeah.
be cool.
Inside of Tatum I like that record because it started off like I did 2 songs that recorded like pretty good with Clay from Necrosophic Abyss.
Okay.
He played guitar, but he had that style,
Yeah.
that like Euro power chordy shit, and I was like, I don't want that. So I didn't put out. I have one song that I didn't put out, and
Okay.
then Rick went in and he started playing. And if you listen to his playing, like, that's what I want, like that type of shit. So then we re-recorded the album and then put that out.
That's cool.
But the album starts off with this woman getting killed, right?
Oh shit.
And I got the recording, from online.
Yeah.
Because you can go to a website and it's like full of like 911 calls and shit.
Yeah.
And so I found one like that was just brutal, and I was like, all right, I put that in, and then like Caleb from Nightwraith, he kind of added some of the key parts on top of it, and I just wanted to sound like really off-putting.
Yes.
Because the idea for that band is that it's like my alter ego. His name is Bishop Aquinas, and he was like raised in a cult and like has severe mental health issues.
Yeah.
And so like that's the character in the album.
Yeah. In your
So that's why like in that band I cover my face.
Yeah.
And I don't like to show myself, because I really want to embody that sort of separate entity.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Totally. Kind of what we were talking about Typo Negative a little bit earlier is kind of like that on that first album that they put out, where he's like, oh yeah, this is like the type A personality or whatever, just helped him get to that point. So I think
well, and it's funny that you're wearing a midnight shirt, because the same thing with those dudes. Like I did a tour with them last year.
Oh, okay.
In South America, and I got to mix them every night. And speaking to the vocalist, he did the same thing. Like he's like, no, this is just the band that I get to like channel all of my childhood, like, Misfits style energy. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I get it. Totally, because he's like the nicest dude in the world. So
right.
It's like,
but when he's on stage,
he's just like a grimy, disgusting,
street bastard. Yeah,
and I love it. You know what I mean? So like, we connected a lot on that regard. So.
That's really fucking cool. And you did a tour recently. Was it with? It was with Nightwraith.
It was with Nightwraith.
Yeah, you just did
our first little West Coast tour. Nightwraith. It was born after Primitive Man and I stopped playing with each other, and that band is interesting because the idea for that band was to be the opposite of what most people expect metal bands to be.
Yeah.
angry, trying to be the fastest, trying to be the heaviest. And I think that as much as I've toured, and I'm sure that people who tour a lot and who play in bands that have been around for a long time can feel like you start seeing the repetitious of the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
And I'm the kind of person that I like to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And if I start to see, like, for example, when I played doom metal, we played with predominantly doom metal bands, and they almost all sound the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, like, if I saw, there was one band, Christworm was one band. I don't know. Shout out to Christworm if you're still around. That band, I saw them play. They were a 2-piece.
Yeah.
And they stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Like, very rarely did that ever happen. And I was like, I watched their set, and I was like, I even went up to the vocalist, and I was like, you guys stand out, like, to me.
Yeah.
I see a lot of doom metal bands.
There's a shit ton. There's too many.
Yeah, and not to dog on it. I mean, I get it. Like, doom is a genre, and they all sound like that. I get it. But I think for me is, I have like real traumas that I deal with.
Totally.
When I see a doom metal band that is only doing it because it's fashionable, I can weed that out.
Yeah.
I can see the ones that play the music because they really are trying to work through something, and it's the only thing that keeps them alive.
Yeah.
That's what so when I saw Christworm, I was like, okay, like, this dude here is really working some shit out in his music, and it's authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a large majority of bands in general, it doesn't even have to be metal.
Right.
It could just be bands.
Yeah.
Are large, a large amount of them are just people who were kids and just wanted to, thought it was cool to be in a band.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I did in the beginning, but I think over the years, I just really realized the importance of why this has to be in my life.
Totally. Yeah.
And if I see it in other people, then I respect it.
And that's kind of why I wanted to make these videos in the first place, because I'm like, I want to talk to real deal people that need this in their lives.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can see that on stage with you.
Yeah. I'm when I play, I literally, I'm not there. You know what I mean? Like, when I played in Primitive Man, what I used to do is, because prior to that band, I played in a lot of tech death stuff.
Okay.
Cortez was one of them, and there's like a million riffs in a song. There's so much shit going on. So I didn't know how to play that, like, doom metal the way they wanted it, and I was like, man, what? So I remember I thought about it, and I was like, okay, how would a gorilla play this music? So what I started, like, training. I started, like, lifting weights and training, and I would, like, play with weights on my wrists and on my hands and on my ankles.
Yeah.
And when we would practice, I would practice big moves like a gorilla would play, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember saying, that's not enough. Like, what else can I do? And so what I used to do is before we would play, I would, like, go into the darkest place that I can. And it made the music, like, really intense, because those dudes are already intense, and then to have a drummer that looks like he's clearly in a trance and, like, not, and very probably not healthy for him too, right?
Sure. Sure.
Because I had a lot, like, I used to, like, one time I broke my hand playing drums just from punching it, like, like during a song. I cracked my head open because I'm doing these big moves, and, like, the emotion and the intensity is hitting me so much that I lose it. I don't even know where I'm at.
You're right.
And so, like, people would be like, oh my God, like, this guy is, like, really, like, he's really into this shit.
Yeah.
And then after our sets, it would take me like 10, 15 minutes to calm down.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd still be agitated.
Yeah.
There was this one time, and this just testifies to how I am.
Yeah.
We were playing a festival in California, in Oakland. And it was a grind fest. It was a ton of people, ton of bands there. And we were playing, and the sound, the audio kept cutting off. Like, we kept losing power. So what that was doing to me was, I was in this trance. And when I play, and then it kept jerking me out of it.
Yeah.
And it happened like 3 times. And I told Ethan, I was like, if it happens one more time, I'm going to stop playing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it happened. And I just stopped, picked up my shit, and left. Everyone was pissed at me, but no one understood what it was doing to me.
Right.
Like, it was just, like, jerking me back into reality, and I'm like, I can't handle this mentally, dude. I'm
Yeah.
gonna fucking lose my mind.
Yeah.
And so I think that I got to really unhealthy mental places when I played in that band. Because that's what the music required for it to be authentic.
Sure.
So when people watched that band, at least when I played in that band, they knew that they were getting a real experience of some people who really need to work through some shit.
Yeah.
Shout out to Primitive Man, by the way. After I left with Nightwraith, I explicitly told Ben and Igor, because we were the core members. I was like, I do not want to do that again. It was hard for me. I thought some days I thought that I was gonna literally kill myself.
Yeah,
like
it's just so draining.
It was super draining. Like I remember one time Ethan had to talk me out from jumping out of a window in Switzerland somewhere. You know what I mean? Because I was drunk and I was just out of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that when Nightwraith started, I just told him I can't do that again. It has to be more lighthearted because I need that.
Right.
I can't be in this angry space all the time because for me, it's not a game.
Right.
For me, I'll end up killing myself because of this shit. You know what I'm saying? And so that was since the very beginning. Nightwraith has been a positive metal band where we hug before we play. I've known all of those dudes for well over 15 years.
Wow. No.
And except for Jacob, which Jacob I've known for about 6, 7, but he's been a great addition to our circle of friends.
Totally.
And so like we keep it on that level. So that's why a lot of people like Nightwraith is different. It's not the typical metal band, but we do that on purpose.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
I think that's really fucking cool.
Right. It's not by a mistake. Like I hated the first record. I hated it. And Ben knows, shout out to Ben. But he knows, man. He knows it because like when he recorded the vocals on that record and then sent it to me after the fact, and I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? He was so much singing on it. And I was like, why are you singing? We're not Baroness, and I can't stand that band. Like, no. And so on the Offering record, he and I had to find a medium. Because in that band, Ben is heavily influenced by pop punk bands.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Even though he's a huge metalhead, that was his beginning movement.
Sure.
For me, I mean, I was listening to like gangster rap and shit like that. So like for me, it's like I need that intensity. I can't just have happiness.
Right.
So we came with a compromise, and I said, okay, you're gonna write the shit that you write, but when you bring it to me, I'm gonna wraith it out. I'm gonna make it heavier, blast beats, gutturals, and that has now become our style.
And it's perfect blend. There's no band like it.
Yeah,
because of that. Yeah. That's great.
yeah. We call ourselves Black and Dad Rock because that's kind of like what we sound like to me.
Yeah.
We have like these like classic rock elements with like these black metal style things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and like black metal to me, like I think is one of the most, a lot of black metal people are probably not gonna like that I'm saying this, but I think it's one of the most beautiful styles of metal. Because the melodies are haunting.
Yeah.
Like when you listen to like old Dark Funeral, you know what I'm saying? Like those melodies that they're playing, even though they're fast, they're really cool and dark and beautiful to me. Like it just seems like this like, so black metal has a very special place in my heart.
Yeah.
And I try to like incorporate it in any way I can into the shit that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of those styles that I just completely feel, right? Like even though death metal, I love death metal. I mean, I grew up on it, but it's more of like
right,
angry, like we're gonna do something. But like black metal has to deal with this whole other aspect to me that's the occult. And I'm very much an occultist, right? I've been a pagan since I was 15. Like shortly after my father died, I've gotten into paganism, and I've been like that. I mean, I'm 47 now, so more than half my life. You know? So anything that embodies the occult, I usually gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Death metal doesn't do a lot of that.
No, not really.
No, but black metal definitely satisfies that part of me. So I always kind of go there for that kind of stuff.
Which is, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's like, and I'm glad it's there for you to connect, you know.
Right.
I'm kind of curious, kind of brings me into Urine Ashes for the Mute as well. Was that kind of like something you were like, I got a black metal lit up, and Jacob kind of invited you, or did you guys start that band together?
No, that was Jacob's band I think he was in high school when he started that band.
No shit.
Yeah, that's been Jacob's baby for the longest. So when Nightwraith was playing, they weren't necessarily satisfying the heavy part that I want.
Sure.
So I remember I almost left the band a couple of times, but Ben talked me out of it. And he was like, "Come on, I'm writing some new stuff. You can bring in some of your intensity."
Yeah.
But at that time, I wasn't satisfied with it. I was like, it's too. This was before Offering. Okay. So I wanted to leave that band because I'm like, if this is how we're gonna sound, I don't want to play in it.
Yeah.
So I started to look for it, and then I said, you know what? I actually never played in just a straight up black metal band either.
Yeah.
For as much as I enjoy it and I love it, I just never sat down and played. I always thought it was too hard.
Okay.
You know, like the constant blast. I wasn't good at blasting at that time.
It's intense.
So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get good at it, and I went specifically looking to start a black metal band, and I met Jacob. Now Jacob, I met him on Craigslist, and his recordings were good. I didn't necessarily like the songs that much, but the recordings were really good. So I'm saying, at the very least, this guy's a good engineer.
Right.
So I met up with him and we started talking, and he was like, yeah, you know, I like more of the European Swedish style of black metal, and that's kind of what I want to do. And I'm like, well, I've never played it before, but I want to learn.
Yeah.
And so that band, I actually started learning how to do blast beats correctly, the different type of blast beats, just how to play in a black metal band that has the overall aesthetic of that music.
Sure.
You know, and it opened me up on, you know, Jacob helped me out a lot on how to get there. And then I started Necrosophic Abyss, which was just straight up dark funeral worship. Like I just wanted to do something like that.
Yeah.
And we had 3 guitars, and the way we wrote the music was very classical music, like classical music, whereas there's movements, and so that was fun. And that's when I was like, okay, I want to be a black metal drummer. Like this is what I want to do. And that's why, like, in Offering, there's almost no blast beats in the first album, but in Offering, all of a sudden now I'm putting blast beats in where you're like, why is there a blast beat there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm like, fuck it, I don't care, because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So like, and and then I just started getting on that. Now even with Obscene Worship, like now I played in a death metal band again, and I enjoy it. You know what I mean? But there's just something about playing black metal. But black metal is very, like, it has a lot of politics behind it.
Yeah.
Like, you say the wrong band, and all of a sudden people start classifying you. And, you know, I'm black and Puerto Rican, so I'm nowhere associated with
you're like,
racism.
Come on, man. Yeah.
But like, I remember one time, and like, I don't know a lot of the politics behind it.
You're just listening to music.
I just listen to music, right? And so like one time, I put this ad out, and I was like, this was before when I was trying to put these bands together, and I must have put the wrong band on there. I don't know who it was, but this dude got mad at me and was just like, that's a Nazi's band. And I'm like, who is Nazi? Like, so I went and I looked up, I was like, none of these bands have like Nazi symbols. Like, what are you talking about? Okay. But I guess like some of the members were part of some movement. I just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's interesting. So nowadays I don't really mention any bands to people because I still listen to it for me.
Sure.
And I don't want to tell people that I listen to the wrong band and then have them think that I'm like into that shit. Because as far as I'm concerned, music is music.
Right.
Black metal wasn't born off of racism. Black metal was born off of hatred for the church.
Yeah.
Which I fully am on board with. I do not like Christianity as a whole. I'm not attacking individual Christians.
Yeah.
By no means.
Yeah.
The institution, we all know, killed a lot of people and destroyed a lot of lives. We all know that.
Yeah. It's I think it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
you know what I mean? And I'm on that same lane. So that to me was why I gravitated towards that style of music anyway.
Right.
Because look, there's racist rap music. There's skinhead rap music. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, they can't create their own thing. They're gonna they're gonna cling on to shit that's around them.
Yeah.
So I'm not like familiar with that part. I'm familiar with burning churches. Yeah, let's do that all day.
Sure.
Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm not down with, you know, racist shit. I'm just not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't be. For me, it's like, that's not what music represents to me, right?
No.
But with that being said, we live in a fucking beautiful country that is allowed freedom of speech. So I'm not gonna. what I tell people is this: if that is what the vibe that you're on, you're just gonna have to deal with the consequences of that.
Oh, yeah, completely.
I respect you if you want to have it, but you're gonna get beat up probably, and
right, yeah. Well, you can't give it and not expect to, take it.
Yeah. Because I've seen them get beat up, and I'm like, yeah, dude, you decided to come here with a swastika, you're gonna get a lock in your mouth. You know what I mean? You're gonna have some teeth knocked out, but that's what you chose.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm not that. So, I have a healthy respect for it, but I think for me, black metal and my consumption of it is for me. Totally. It's not for anyone else. Yeah. And so I just stopped even talking about it. I was just like, I'm not gonna get in trouble with people. I'm not gonna get canceled over some shit that I just don't know about.
Yeah, right.
You know? I mean, a lot of music has that, right? Like even hip hop, I grew up on it. I still listen to it, still love it. But I mean, there's a lot of politics behind it. There's a lot of, gang involvement. And do I agree with how they act with each other? No, I don't. I think it's destructive all around. But who the fuck am I?
Right. Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm just me. And these people, they have their own lives. Nothing I say is going to change that. Right.
Right.
So it's like, I can't do anything about that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, we're about at the 50-minute mark.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we're going to try to wrap it up here.
Okay.
I'm curious if you got anything coming up on the books, any recordings, tours, anything like that you want
right now. Ashes is writing a new record.
Awesome.
Obscene is writing a new record. Nightwraith is going to put out a single here soon, and then we're going to start writing a new record.
Ooh, cool.
And at the end of that, man, I'm just trying to stay busy and positive and enjoy music and what I love doing.
Excellent, man. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely, man.
I really appreciated it.
Yeah, cool.
Great
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love this conversation.
Yeah, it was good, man. Yeah.